It is the end of an era here in Central Florida. I think Disney's reign as the all-time king of theme parks here in Central Florida is coming to an end. And I now think it's time for Universal Studios to step up. How's it going, everybody? We are over here at Universal Studios to talk about that exact topic. Why do I feel like Universal is going to be the king of theme parks here, and why I believe actually Disney is now going to be stepping down as that king, at least again here in Central Florida. I have some things to talk about. This is obviously a very controversial topic, and if you guys agree with me, leave a comment. If you disagree with me, leave a comment. Let's have a conversation about it, but I am just kind of curious as to what you guys feel. But as of right now, I have a very strong feeling we are entering the Universal era. And where else better to talk about this other than inside of the park? It is going to be kind of a hang out with me kind of day here at Universal Studios. We're gonna just kind of talk a little bit about why, again, I feel the way that I do. And again, we're gonna have a little bit of a discussion. Now the parade is happening here in just a few minutes, so we're gonna go ahead and check that out here. But today was the final day of announcements for Epic Universe Lands. They just announced the brand new Ministry of Magic area, or the Harry Potter land that is coming to Epic Universe. And that was really kind of where I started to feel like it just feels like things are turning in favor of Universal. Now again, we're gonna be waiting here. The parade is just starting. But when it comes to just Universal in general and Epic Universe, I mean, I feel like it's been a long time since we've had real big expansions here. And obviously, I mean, we haven't had a new park here in Central Florida in a very, very long time. And as of now, I just feel like with Epic Universe coming, I feel like Disney has to have an answer. And a lot of you guys will come out here and say, well, Disney has more parks than Universal. You're absolutely right. But it doesn't necessarily kind of equate to the same thing. When you open up a brand new park, it's more than just a new park. There's new technology that is coming there, and a lot of people forget that. I mean, we're going to have a ton of new tech in there, not just with rides, but kind of how the whole system is done. So it's more than just, again, a new park. There's so much more coming. Obviously, there's a lot of IP there that is coming to the park, but again, the scale of Epic Universe is something that I think is to be marveled at, is just how big that park is going to be. And it's just, I don't know, just as you're existing inside of Orlando and on the communities online, you start to just hear people talk a lot about Universal and Epic Universe and just kind of everything going on. And you're kind of waiting for that answer to come from Disney. We obviously do have Disney D23 coming up here very shortly, and a lot of people are kind of hoping that they make some really big announcements. However, we've gotten kind of a lot of announcements over the past few years, but nothing's really stuck. Now I did come over here to grab some shade because it is extremely hot here in Central Florida. But like I said, we have been hearing a lot of things come out at D23, and again, these blue sky ideas that never really seem to turn into anything. But the big thing is, I don't want to sit here and talk poorly of Disney, because I love going to Disney just as much as I love going to any of the other parks. I realistically want all of the parks to succeed, because ultimately, if one park does well, then the other parks need to kind of catch up. And that's kind of what you typically see, is if one park is really starting to expand and do things, then the other parks say, hey, we need to do something too, because we don't want to kind of get pushed under as they are kind of taking off. Now, it is a little bit of an exception with, obviously, SeaWorld and Busch, because they don't have as strong of a presence. But obviously, if they continuously release new coasters, new experiences, new shows, things like that, then you start to notice that Universal and Disney may say, okay, well, they are kind of releasing a lot, we need to kind of answer back. However, we have Universal that is building Epic Universe, which I have already talked about, and we have all of the lands announced. I mean, I don't want to dig too deep into it, but obviously, I mean, that is kind of, I think, a big reason why we are going to see a shift here very soon from the Disney era to the Universal era. And Universal came out and said they want Universal to be kind of that week-long vacation, not just that additional part of your Disney vacation. And I think with that comes along with all of the experiences and everything that you can have. And really, I do feel like Universal is very aware of their pass holders and their consumer, and they're saying there is so much potential here in Orlando. Why would we not build a brand new giant theme park? And that's what we got. We're getting Epic Universe in less than a year at this point. And if we really want to talk about, you know, not just domestically, but internationally, we also have them expanding lands over in their other parks. So they are still expanding outside of the US here. And I think that's a big thing that a lot of people say is, well, Disney's expanding all of their other parks, which is great, but domestically, it feels like at least over here at Disney World, it feels like they're not really that invested in kind of growing this park. And from what I've heard, it seems like this park already just does well, or I should say the kind of plethora of parks that they have here are all doing pretty well. So they just kind of let it ride, and they almost seem to use the funding from Disney World to kind of fund all of their other parks across the world. I don't know if that's true, but that's kind of how it feels, where it feels like Universal says, hey, we can, fund our other parks. We can also build a brand new one in Texas, which I think is greenlit completely. I think there's plans now to build one in the UK somewhere over in Europe. And I mean, at the end of the day, they said, we know that Orlando has such a high ceiling, we're going to continue to invest in it. And they are bringing more here to Orlando. That is huge. That is something that I feel like Disney is missing. It's like, yes, I understand Disney World is extremely busy, but it's also got a lot of potential still. There's still a lot that you could do. So to see Epic Universe opening and to see Universal say, hey, you know what? We're not done with Orlando or Central Florida. We are not done there. We are going to double down. Makes me feel like a lot of people are looking at Universal and saying, hey, they're doing it right? They're giving us not only a new experience, not just a land, but an entire park. And it just kind of feels like that tide is starting to turn. You're seeing a lot of people talk about it. You're all of a sudden seeing a potential little dip in all of the attendance this year. Call it the COVID rebound, call it whatever you will, but I've got a strong feeling a lot of people are waiting until next year to take their vacation to visit Epic Universe. That's what I'm seeing. Now, I'd love to say that Disney and Universal are on the same page when it comes to their nighttime experiences and their shows. However, I do feel like Disney is still winning in that department. I feel like when you look at Happily Ever After, the amount of fireworks being displayed there, the projections, they're really knocking it out of the park over there. I actually think Luminous is fantastic as well. I really liked Harmonious too, to be honest with you. All of their shows are really just something special. I think Fantasmic, same thing. However, now that we have Sensational and the parade over here at Universal, you're starting to see them get involved with a little bit more. Not only are they doing a lagoon show with the projections on the water, they're doing projections up on the buildings, they're also doing the drones. Obviously, we have the parade here with some very, very nice floats. In all honesty, I do feel like the floats here at Universal are a little bit more technically advanced and just kind of a little bit more exciting than the Disney ones. I mean, obviously you have some really cool and unique things here with the Universal parade, but I do know obviously the parades over at Disney are nothing to scoff at. Obviously Boo to You is such an iconic one. And I feel like a lot of their kind of like the Fantasy Parade, they've got a lot of very good parades. So I would say their parades are kind of on point to kind of be equal. I would say obviously Disney has the longer parades. They've got some really nice stuff, obviously all their characters and everything. But I do feel like Universal now, with kind of the uniqueness that they're bringing with some of the tech and some of the fun things that kind of go along with it, I do feel like they are stepping up their game. Again, Sensational, absolutely love the show. But again, it's hard to compete when you've got multiple shows at multiple parks kind of performing pretty well. So I would say Disney is still holding on strong with their nighttime shows. However, once Epic Universe comes, I feel like sky's the limit. Now I'm gonna keep on moseying around a little bit, and as we actually enter this area here in Central Park, you're gonna notice that we have a lot of props up. And this is for their Halloween event here at Universal. And that is another spot that I feel like Universal is really just taking the cake over Disney. And that's going to be, I mean, specifically, let's look at their Halloween event, right? So both of them are an extra ticketed event here. So both you will have to buy a separate ticket to be able to experience all of the kind of offerings that they have for the season. But over here at Universal, their tickets are significantly cheaper, offering a lot of haunted houses, offering the scare zones, offering the shows. It feels a little bit more impactful, where if you look at something like Mickey's Not So Scary, yes, it is a very fun event. You obviously have the trick-or-treating, and you've got a few ride overlays with the extra nighttime show. But really, that's kind of it. You're paying for the exclusivity of being in the park, kind of without crazy crowds, but also getting to dabble with some of that experience of Halloween. Where I kind of feel like with Universal, their ticket gives you 10 haunted houses, which is a lot of new experiences, 5 scare zones to go hang out in, a new nighttime show that will happen with the Nightmare Fuel, and we'll still see, I don't know if it's coming this year, but they did have a lagoon show specific to Halloween. I don't know if they're having it this year, but that was just an additional show that you were able to see. So I would have to say, if we're looking at experiences for dollar value, I would have to say Universal clearly wins. Way more things to do that are unique and specific to their extra ticketed event. Where I absolutely love Mickey's Not So Scary, I do feel like the value is still better at Universal for Halloween Horror Nights. Obviously, they are 2 completely different experiences, but another thing is you can buy multi-tickets for the event. So you can buy either the first 30 days, you could buy everything but Fridays or Saturdays, whatever you want. You have that ability to buy multiple tickets at a very large discounted rate. Unlike over at Disney, you cannot buy multiple Mickey's Not So Scary tickets. You'll be paying full price every single time you want to visit. Now, when it comes to the other events, again, we're looking at things like the holidays. Obviously, over at Epcot, you have a few things. Over here at Universal, they do some fun stuff for the holidays. Always a blast. So I feel like for the rest of the time, it's pretty on par. But over at Disney, they do charge extra for that Christmas party at the Magic Kingdom. So that is something you got to keep in mind if you want to experience everything that they do offer. You are paying a little bit more money to do so. Again, very fun experiences, but sometimes it doesn't always feel worth it. Now I need to go find another spot to sit over here, so I'm gonna head into the shade as we bring up our next point here. And that is going to be pass holder benefits here at the parks. Now I feel like it is a no-brainer that Universal is just significantly better with their pass benefits. Number one, in just a few weeks here, we have like a pass holder appreciation day kind of thing where you get to sign up, and 1 out of 2 days you get to come here and just kind of have the park to yourselves. Huge benefit there. Obviously, you know, Universal's kind of taken a hit by not allowing people to be inside of the park for, you know, an extra 3-4 hours or whatever the length of the actual event is, and they're giving it to their pass holders. There's a lot of appreciation there. Both parks do appreciation like days, which is basically about a month long. However, I do feel like overall it does tend to feel like Universal's is a little bit more impactful. But when it comes to the benefits themselves, as you go up the tiers of Universal's pass, it is more than just the blockout dates, which unfortunately that's all you get with Disney, is just more days able to go to the park. You get no steeper discount. You get no benefits for things like parking. It's not like you get, you know, the premier parking or whatever they end up calling it over there, the better parking situation. You get, you know, no extra benefits kind of any sort. At the end of the day, all you get is just more or less blockout dates depending on the level of your tier pass. Even at Universal, the top tier pass, you get a free ticket to their Halloween event. I feel like it's very easy for Disney to just say, if you have the top tier, you can go ahead and take 1 entry to Mickey's Not So Scary. Feels pretty simple. I would have to say even SeaWorld and Busch offer better benefits, possibly over Universal. I guess it depends, because again, having Prime included, getting the Express After 4 is like a huge benefit in my opinion, and you get some steeper percent discounts being like the top tier. So I do feel like Universal is pretty dang good with their pass holder benefits. And then again, like I said, SeaWorld and Busch, same thing. Like I said, you get like steeper discounts. Obviously you have blockout dates, but you get like more free tickets for friends, things like that. Again, the only thing you get with Disney is just more like, or again, less blockout dates, and it just feels weird because they could do a lot more. I mean, they're charging the most out of any of the passes, and they're not offering anything other than blockout dates. Now, again, when I say the tides are shifting, this has been going on for a very long time, but I think a lot of people are starting to realize it now, and they're saying, well, look at all the extra benefits that I can get by spending less money over at a different park. Now, obviously, your Universal Pass isn't getting you into Disney, but when you look at the benefits that you get with the Universal Pass, depending if you're trying to spend that amount of money, you start to weigh it out and you say, hey, you know, it kind of feels like at this point I'm getting X amount more for X amount less. Feels pretty good. So that is just another thing that I feel like is starting to drive people to say, you know, I'm kind of okay with spending my money over at Universal and getting a pass there, especially as locals. I have people here that I know where they switch. Sometimes they'll pick up their Disney pass for a year and then they'll cut their annual pass for Universal, and they'll swap and they'll do their annual pass for Universal, and then drop Disney. But more and more I'm finding people renewing their passes to Universal and not picking up an annual pass for Disney, which again is why I'm talking about this on this video, about how I feel like the tides are shifting. It feels like more and more people are interested in keeping or renewing their annual passes here at Universal or picking up a pass here at Universal. And I'm seeing a lot of people struggle to pick up that pass, especially as an out-of-state guest. I have some friends that would really like to pick up an annual pass to Disney, but they're not really incentivized when the only option is their top tier, where at Universal you have multiple options that you can pick up. I think they have either the lowest or the second lowest one. We have friends and family, a lot of them have passes just because they come down a few times a year, where for Disney, the only option you have as an out-of-stater is to pick up the most expensive pass. That's a hefty penny. I think after tax and everything, you're looking at probably almost $1,500 for a pass. It's a lot of money to basically only have one option. So it is something that I feel like Disney could open up, and it would really, I feel like, bring some positivity to the park in that regard. And I feel like it's simple, but obviously it's a numbers game that I don't know, you and I probably don't know enough about. Now there's just a few more points I want to bring up, and maybe they're not as impactful to people, but I do feel like they definitely bring up that tide shift feeling. And one of those would be just the hype in general around Universal. And again, this kind of stems back to Epic Universe, but it's also the other parks that they're expanding to internationally and their park in Texas. So I just feel like there's a lot of hype that is going on. I feel like every year, I feel like so many people talk so positively about Universal. And again, that kind of goes into my next point actually, and that would be the guest experience. Two things to point out there. Number one, I feel like walking around Universal, oftentimes, I know this is maybe weird to most people, but I feel like I see a lot more people smiling and having a good time around the park, where I feel like a lot of times over at the Disney parks, I do feel like I oftentimes see people just kind of either neutral or sometimes mad, yelling, angry. And again, I'm not saying that is the entire crowd, but I see it more often over there versus over here. And it is something that I feel like is to be noted. And I feel like there's a few reasons for it. One big one, especially if you're over at Magic Kingdom, I feel like that is probably the park with the most amount of kids. And I'm sure having kids on a Disney vacation, especially when you're in the middle of summer and it is blazing hot, it's probably not the best thing that could be going on. Probably pretty uncomfortable, lots of heat, you have screaming kids, etc. So I could understand kind of that side of things. However, when you take that out of the equation, I still feel like the guest experience has been leveled up here at Universal. And one thing I really mean by that is that I feel like the cast members / team members, depending on what park you're at, are actually feeling a lot more impactful here at Universal. I feel like every time I interact with a team member, I do feel like I'm getting a little bit more of a positive experience, where I feel like Disney was blowing Universal out of the water for the longest time. I feel like everybody kind of knew that the Disney employees were always just so nice, caring, and just like, I don't know, there was something different about that experience when you dealt with anybody over at the Disney parks. However, I feel like that's not like apparent anymore. And I don't know if it's because of this whole online thing where people, were demanding to make magical moments. I feel like that was really kind of a big thing for a long time was, people would talk about, I got a magical moment made. And it's almost like, I would see it in the parks where it'd be like, make a magical moment for my kid. And it's like, well, that's not how it works. And I don't know if Disney all of a sudden was like, we're getting too many of these problems, so now we kind of have to shift it. And I don't have to just, a little less nice, a little more rude, however you want to look at it. But at the end of the day, I do feel like a lot of my experiences with the team members here at Universal have been leaps and bounds better than the experiences that I've had over at Disney. Now, I'm not saying that is every scenario. Disney still has a lot of employees that I feel like are very nice, and honestly, they will go above and beyond to make your experience fantastic. But I do feel like here at Universal, I've started to see more and more positive interactions with the team members in just a general census. And obviously, you don't interact with them every single day. I guess like in a queue, if you're kind of walking through the line or whatever, checking in, you'll see stuff like that. But overall, I just feel like Disney was so known for their cast members being so above and beyond just insanely good at what they do, And I just feel like that experience just isn't the same anymore. And again, I'm not gonna put that completely on Disney per se. I feel like it definitely could be the people attending Disney that could really put that kind of hurt on and kind of make it look a lot worse for them. I feel like everybody is kind of expecting something now, and I feel like that can hurt the image because they see something online and then they expect it as well. And I'm not saying that Universal doesn't have that same problem, but I feel like there's a lot more people out there talking about, you know, the Disney hacks, do this, try and get a free this, try and get this, whatever. And then again, you see things like the magical moments like I was just explaining, and it's like people demand that. And I think that actually makes the cast members look worse. And again, maybe the cast members aren't doing anything differently, but instead they have to say no more. So then you start to see, you know, as they're just interacting with guests that are yelling at them because they want these things or whatever, it kind of makes them more grumpy. And it could be kind of this vicious cycle. So again, I'm not blaming the cast members by any means. I'm just pointing out the guest experience, from what I see, definitely has started to shift, at least from what I see most of the time. Now, one big thing I think Disney has over Universal that I don't think is going to change would be the filming policy. And that is something I feel like is hurting Universal's exposure just a little bit, as when you come to the park, again, not being able to film on any of the rides, even bringing something like a GoPro would, I feel like, be a nice little benefit. Obviously over at like SeaWorld and Busch, you can't bring your camera on the rides, but bring like a GoPro or something mounted to you like that is a possibility. And I feel like at Universal, because you can't do that, I do feel like I said, there is some exposure that is not being kind of shown because people can't do that really, unless you want to break the rules of Universal. So that is something that I feel like I would like to see change in the future, is them allowing more cameras on the rides. I understand some of the rides, I think like ET you can, and I don't know, maybe one or two others. And I feel like that would be something that could definitely change and again, would get a lot more exposure for Universal. Obviously, we have the restriction to filming in the houses for the Halloween event too, which is interesting because over here in Orlando, you cannot film, but over in Hollywood, you can. So I don't know what is really stopping them from allowing that here versus over there, but it is kind of unique that you can't film in the houses, I think only in Orlando. All right, let's talk about my final two reasons why I do feel like Universal is changing the tides and could be the king of theme parks here. Now, first and foremost would be that we have the hotels. Another thing is when you are coming to the parks, if you buy the top tier hotels, or I guess if you stay at the top tier hotels here at Universal, you're given express for not only the day that you check in, but the following day. So one night at one of their premier hotels will give you 2 days of express, and it is unlimited express, which is a very good value. So when you're coming here with a family and you look at how much money you have to spend and how much value you are getting, kind of a no-brainer when you look at the premier resorts versus the top tier resorts over at Disney, significantly more value here at Universal. And finally, let's look at Las Vegas. They're bringing the Horrors Unleashed over to Las Vegas, a brand new experience, but not theme park related, which makes you start to feel like, wow, they're getting involved in other things outside of the parks, which is kind of huge for them. Obviously, Disney has a lot that is kind of part of their portfolio. They have cruises, they have resorts all over the just US, the world, I guess, at this point. So there is still a lot of room to grow for Universal, if you will. Now, with all of that, I do feel like we are approaching the new era of Universal. If they can kind of continue to expand, continue to invest in the guest experience, continuously release new things for us, and again, branch out like they are over in Vegas. Maybe they get into the cruise game, who knows? But if they can start to do this and they can continue to build this Universal brand that we love, I'm going to say this could be a very long era for Universal to get on top, stay on top, and really show you who kind of the new king of theme parks is, and not just here in Central Florida. Again, I do feel like the tides have shifted here in Orlando, but I'm starting to feel like if they continue to go, this could be a global thing. Who knows? Let me know in the comments below. What do you think? I know it's a very controversial topic, but let me know. Do you guys feel like I'm crazy? Do you guys agree with me? Do you feel like some of my points are valid, but not all of them? Who knows? I'd love to kind of talk, have a conversation about it. It is just how I am feeling right now, especially like I said, they just announced the final stop here at Epic Universe. All of the lands have been announced. We just got announced all of the houses and scare zones here for Halloween Horror Nights. Everything is coming out right now, so again, let me know. And if you did enjoy today's video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. We'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.